Happy beautiful day, Pete Cohen here. Welcome to episode 188 of the My 365 podcast series, How to Win the Champions League, Lessons in Leadership. Get ready for another game-changing podcast. Let's do it. Not now, but right now. Welcome to episode 188 of the My 365 podcast series, How to Win the Champions League, Lessons in Leadership. Now, this might be a podcast that you think, the Champions League, what's that? Is that football thing? I don't like football. Listen, whether you like football or not, this is a podcast I'd really encourage you to listen to, because one thing that I'm so passionate about is helping people take the lead in their life, the lead in their health, their well-being, their relationships, their work, everything, to take the lead. I also know, as many of you who follow me, I believe that leadership is the most valuable commodity in the world, because we all want to follow people. And who are we following? I actually made a post the other day, in fact today I should say, talking about when I was at university and at school. I didn't have one teacher or lecturer that, inspired me. They were nice people, but there weren't people that made me think I want to go out and take the lead in my life. And let me ask you that question as someone who believes in people and coaches people. Are you the sort of person that wants to take the lead in your own life? If you didn't have to do anything about it, right? If you wanted to be financially free, if you wanted to have an abundance of energy and health and well-being, if you wanted to have more loving relationships and connections with people, if you could just be more fulfilled in everything that you do, you could wake up and be in control of your emotions. If you could just wave the magic wand and have some of those things or all of those things, would that not be something that you wanted? Well, of course, but we know that those things aren't going to happen for you. It's going to have to be something that you do. It's often going to take some form of effort. It's going to have to take some form of resolve and investment of your time and your energy. But is it worth it? Is it worth it? I'd like to think that so. I see why so many people are struggling in the world today, because they just know that there is a gap between where they are, where they want to be, and they're not doing much about it. It's just so easy to be like everybody else. I don't know if you've seen that film called WALL-E, which was a cartoon where human beings have seriously messed up the earth so we can't live here anymore. Who knows whether that's going to happen or not. And we end up all living on spaceships, and this robot that's living on Earth ends up getting onto one of these spaceships, and everyone is just living where they're watching screens, they've forgotten how to use their legs, they're drinking sugary drinks, they're eating food which isn't good for them, and they're not talking to each other. And this is kind of one of the ways that the world is going. And it needs more and more people just like you and me to take the lead. Now, this whole thing of how to win the Champions League, whether you're into football or not, something truly amazing has happened. And by the time this podcast goes out, I'm not sure whether the Champions League final would actually have been played, which is between Liverpool and Tottenham. In fact, I'm recording this on the day after Tottenham Hotspur beat Ajax. It was an incredible game because the odds were stacked against them, and Tottenham were 2-0 down after the end of the first half, and they came back and they won in the 96th minute. And you see these people react. You see the fans, you see the team, and I just want to play you a couple of things that you can actually hear. Just hold on one sec. So this is the manager of Tottenham speaking after the game.
I said before, they are heroes. I told you in the last 6 months, I think I repeat these sentences. I think they are superheroes now. To brought the club to the final of Champions League, I think is very close to a miracle.
And people would say it's a miracle. How did this happen? It happened through leadership. That's how I think these things happen. I don't actually think any of these things happen by chance. And I'm just going to play you something that the Liverpool manager actually said after the game as well. So let's listen to this.
I said to the boys before the game, I don't think it's possible, but because it's you, I think we have a chance. Because they are really mentality giants. It's unbelievable. It's after the season we played, the games we had, the injuries we have now in this moment. If you go out there and ask who bet a penny on us, I don't think you find a lot of people.
So people did something truly incredible, and I think that Liverpool were 3-0 down, and they beat what some people believe the best team in the world, Barcelona, to get into the final. And as much as I want Liverpool to win, because I've always supported Liverpool from the age of 7 years old, you know, when I was a kid, they were the best, and I just thought, wow, if they're the best, I want to follow the best. And people used to say, well, you're from London. Why are you supporting a Liverpool who are a few hundred miles away? Well, to me, when I was 7 years old, it didn't make any difference. I worked in professional football. I worked with the Arsenal football team. And I've seen great leaders, and I'm so interested and inspired by leadership. And we need to follow people who are inspiring. And I believe these managers are. And I want to explain part of why I think they're so inspiring. So let me just take you back. When I worked with the Arsenal football team, they did something truly amazing. They went a whole season unbeaten, and they did something which no other team has ever done before. And then we look at, well, why did that happen? Was it luck, or was there some sort of formula? The formula that I could see was the manager at that time, who was a real pioneer of thinking and his name was Arsene Wenger, basically got everyone to play for each other, which is an amazing thing to do. You know, imagine if you think how many businesses would work so much better if everyone just played for everybody else. It became less about you and it became more about your team. Now, unfortunately, what happened with that is that after the season, when one person left and new people came in, it massively affected the dynamics of the team. So it was really effective, but really not as effective as it could be. And when you see great teams, what they often do is they're often adapting, they're often changing. You could look at the greatest team that has ever played any sport, and some people would say that was the New Zealand rugby team, or it is. They've got an 82% win ratio. Why do they keep winning? Well, they have a philosophy. And the philosophy is that when you play for New Zealand, when you leave, when you've played your last game, you wouldn't necessarily know when that was, you leave the team in a better place than when you came. So the idea is that you this constant improvement, constant getting better, and realize that you're playing for something much bigger than yourself, playing for everyone else who's ever played in the past, ever will play in the future. So when I was working with Arsenal, I also got to know a very famous manager, also Alex Ferguson, and I saw him at many games, and I used to talk to him. And when he actually retired, I spoke to him at a golf day, and it was raining, so I was in a room with him, and I said, "Look, so Alex, please, tell me a little bit about why you were such a great manager." And he looked at me and he just said, "Listen, what I was very, very good at doing was getting everyone to play for me," which is, again, a great idea. Get everyone to play for you. But then what happens as a club when you leave? And I think that's one of the problems which happened when Sir Alex Ferguson left Manchester United. The next player comes in and it's like, well, why should we play for you? And we have to earn people's respect. And I think that's one of the reasons why they have struggled. But when you look at great managers, and I don't think they're much more than managers, they're leaders. You look at this manager, Jurgen Klopp, who's the manager of Liverpool, Pochettino, who's the manager of Tottenham Hotspur, and then you look at Pep Guardiola, who's the manager of Manchester City. And for me, as a coach, always looking for answers, this is what I see that is happened. And this is the next level of leadership. And I think more and more leaders really need to look closely at these people and think of what they're doing. So this is what they're doing. They're very, very, very good at getting people to play for each other. Absolutely amazing. To the point that even if you're not in the team, for whatever reason, you're not good enough, or you're injured, or there's just so many players, you've got to wait your turn. It's not your right time. They're all very good at still making people feel that you're all part of something, which is an incredible lesson in leadership, how to win the Champions League, how to win anything. Very few of us win things on our own. We win things because we are a part of a team. So get everyone to play for each other. Get everyone, if it's a team where you've got supporters, that you think about, we're playing for our supporters. We're playing for our club. We're playing for our manager. But what they're all so good at doing is getting people to want to get better. There was a documentary series that is on Amazon where they followed Manchester City for a whole season. It was incredible. It was such an incredible documentary because you got to see a lot of what goes on behind the scenes, and you could quite clearly see that there are so many people that he has got thinking, how can I get better? How can I improve? This whole concept of mastery, so powerful. I really think that we should be looking at leaders like this. And of course, it's hard for us to sit down and talk to them. But when you look at their interviews, you realize maybe these are the sorts of people that should be leading our countries. You've probably heard of something called Brexit, or you look at other leaders around the world and you think, are these the sort of people I would want to follow? Are these the sorts of people that have really got my best interest at heart? The type of leaders that I'm talking about are what we call inspirators. And the book that I recently wrote called Inspirators, Leading the Way in Leadership, where I interviewed lots of incredibly inspiring leaders in business. And what they all seem to do is they have so many of these ingredients. They get people to want to get better. They get people to feel that they're a part of something. And this is the biggest thing that the greatest leaders do. And the ones that I've just mentioned, these football managers, and the leaders who I've worked with in industry, coaching and mentoring, they're dreamers. They're visionaries. It's hard to get someone to improve on something unless they see where the potential improvement they're going to make is going to take them. And if you listen to what Jurgen Klopp said in this interview before, he said, I don't think it's possible, but because it's you, it is. And there's another interview with Pochettino, the Tottenham manager, talking about how he was dreaming. And dreaming means you see it, and the more you see it, the more you attach emotion to it. And I'm going to do a lot more podcasts on this because I'm realizing how so many people in the world today are just connected to the past, connected to what is familiar, connected to what they know. Why can't we win our own Champions League of our life? I believe we can, and I believe we all want to do it, but there's a price to do it. It means often stepping into the unknown, doing things differently, and taking the lead. So I dare you, if you're able to do this now or after this podcast, go and look in the mirror, look at yourself and say, do I want to follow myself? What is it that I'm working towards? See, no one would go and watch a football game or rugby or oops, I almost dropped my recording device. No one would go and watch a game of football if there were no goals. You'd just be seeing people kicking a ball around. You think, well, hang on, what's the point of this? The point is there's a target. And we are what the Greeks called teleological. We need goals to set. I wonder what your takeaway is from what I've just shared with you on this podcast, and whether you want to be the leader that you actually want to follow. I actually can't wait to sit down and watch the Champions League final at the beginning of June. Of course, I want Liverpool to win, but as crazy as it sounds, to a certain extent, it doesn't matter who wins because the magic has already been done, where you see people who have overcome the odds, done things that no one thought was possible. And in my book, Inspirators, it's all really taken from the work of Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell was George Lucas's best friend. George Lucas was the creator of Star Wars. Joseph Campbell was a lecturer in mythology and stories, and he looked at all of the stories that most of us have known, whether they're biblical, mythical stories, but then also in film, from The Wizard of Oz to The Hobbit, so obviously Star Wars. And we see this pattern, this formula that is in every single film, that someone is called to an adventure and they don't want to go. But then they get a coach or a mentor, someone helps them, they face adversity, they cross a line they've never crossed before, and you know what? Well, you know the story, right? There's a happily ever after, but it doesn't begin with a happily ever after. It begins with a call to an adventure, and then disaster strikes. And we watch these things, and we watch people overcome adversity, overcome difficulty. That's the greatest thing I believe about human beings, is our ability to set goals and say, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going, and to overcome it. So if you're the sort of person that doesn't want to be ruled by trauma, if you're not waiting for some terrible diagnosis of something or some situation to happen, which will change your life, how about dreaming big of your own Champions League, of your own life, and learning how to find that magic inside you? You know it's true. You know it makes sense. I dare you to go to our webpage, inspirators.me, 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 and go and see what an inspirator is all about. And if you get my book and you spend the small amount of money that it costs to get it, you'll get so much more. You'll also get access to all of the interviews that I did. And a whole load of other stuff, because one thing that we're serious about is we want to create leaders. I believe in you. I never thought of myself as a leader. Many years ago, I said to a friend of mine, who do you think of as a good leader? And he said me. And it was really interesting, because I thought, well, I don't see myself as a leader. But then when I thought about it, I inspire him to take the lead. And that's what a great leader is. We guys, look, we love you. We appreciate you listening to these podcasts. Recently, we've obviously done quite a few with my coach, Patty Dolbovolsky. We've been doing Pete and Patty's Powerful Particulars podcast. We're going to keep doing those. We're going to keep throwing stuff out there to inspire you to take the lead in your life. If you've enjoyed this, we'd love you to share it. We'd love to know. Feel free to contact us. You go to inspirators.me. You can send us an email. We want to help you. If you've got any issues or challenges, let us be a positive force in your life. May the force be with you. Thank you for listening. And last thing, come on, Liverpool! Love you.